I want to now turn to Mr. Sablan.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman McGovern, members of your Rules Committee and your dedicated staff for putting together today's roundtable and for the series of discussions you are holding on how we can better address hunger in America. Chairman McGovern, for all my time here in Congress, you are a tireless advocate for the hungry, and you have always been personally supportive of my work to get the Northern Marianas into SNAP. I will submit more comments for the record, but before I ask my questions, I'd like to mention one single thing that I think underlies the problems for many of the territories in terms of assistance for our citizens. In the myriad of programs that aid Americans, the thousands at least, only about 700 plus are available to the territories. And among these programs themselves, some apply to one territory and not the others, like SSI, or to some and not to one, like TANF. So this disparity needs addressing in a more formal manner, such that I will be calling a natural resources hearing to begin listening from territorial witnesses how to obtain parity for Americans who call the territories home. That is at least a first step in what I hope would be a much more better effort. Now, one of the groups in the Marianas that help distribute funding from FEMA is the Empty Vessel Ministry. And as you have already met Mr. Tebuteb, the director of Empty Vessel, who was also in his career the Mariana Secretary of Community and Cultural Affairs, and that's the department that administers the NAP block grant. So Mr. Tebuteb has an understanding of how both the public sector and nonprofits in the Marianas aid the hungry, and I also welcome Mr. Tebuteb here as a witness. I welcome the other witnesses and my colleagues. I have several questions for you, Tom, so I appreciate you keeping your responses as brief as possible, please. Can you please explain the mission of Empty Vessel Ministry and why Empty Vessel is an important part of the anti-hunger program in the Marianas? There.
Thank you, Congressman. The important role we play is that we assist, like I said earlier, those who fall through the crack that NAP cannot accommodate by virtue of, one, because of the high cost of food that they have to buy in the stores. What happens is that, their resources are depleted by virtue of the expensive, food items they have to get. And so they reach out to us. And given that we're between a rock and a hard place in that we, as a nonprofit, cannot discriminate, we assist those people, including the CW families, including, other contract workers that were impacted by the COVID and were terminated from their jobs. So we play an important role along that line.
Right. So I know your ministry is a beneficiary of or receives a share of the FEMA program on food aid. So do you think Congress should reform how the FEMA funding is distributed, or would it be helpful for other funding streams to be opened up for nonprofits like yours to address the anti-hunger programs such as the Marianas block grant, NAP block grant, and SNAP?
At this point, we're at the mercy of the federal, regulations in that, what is given to, Red Cross as the local council, we as a subrecipient have no choice but to adhere to their requirements, which is not very helpful to us because the funding that we get, 98% of that goes strictly for food. So what are you going to do with 2%? It doesn't even pay our, bills and rental. So if there is any way, that can be modified, and even if there is any way that funding streams via the public school system food program, even the aging, program and NAP can be helpful, then that would be a great help for us. And at least for this committee, Mr. Chairman, to look into the need to amalgamate our resources, since our hands are tied by the existing rules, like not being able to help someone who is quasi qualified, by the way. And so we intervene by getting donations from the private sector, and we help those who come to us.
Okay. And as a member of the Agriculture Committee, I have heard time and again that the benefits cliff happens even with SNAP, the SNAP program. A lesson to members in Congress where SNAP is available to your constituents, that it is not always sufficient, let alone those of us who are recipients of the block grant, NAP block grant for the Marianas. It's 12,001,148 for the past decade. With your understanding of the Marianas block grant and SNAP, Mr. Tebuteb, do you think including the Marianas in SNAP will help alleviate hunger?
Absolutely. I noted that earlier, and that is because of the need to, deal with the rising cost of food and, the other issues that your distinguished colleagues have raised in terms of, transportation, the need for infrastructure and all that. For the block grant to remain constant for that length of time is not acceptable, in my opinion.
Thank you.
And the need to include SNAP in the Marianas will help alleviate some of the the clients that fall through the crack come to us, because at least they would stress their dollars, and hopefully with the work of everyone cutting down the cost of shipment, maybe it can, it'll be more helpful to the clients.
Yeah, so I'm talking about shipment. Just so I like to share with everyone in this room, the transportation of, say, goods. Of, say, let's say one frozen chicken from Tyson's. One Tyson's chicken from Springdale in Arkansas. So it goes from Springdale or a Tyson chicken farm. It goes to either the Oakland or the Los Angeles port. And from there, it gets shipped to Hawaii. From Hawaii, it gets shipped to Guam. From Guam, it gets shipped to Saipan. And then from Saipan, it gets on a barge that goes to Tinian and to Rota. And with Rota, there's half the time of the year where the barge cannot come in because of the rising tide, and it's not safe for the barge to come in. So I have seen for myself a 3-pound frozen chicken that costs $15 in Rota because they have to be flown in by plane. So it's very expensive. But Chairman McGovern, again, I want to thank you and your Rules Committee for giving Mr. Tebuteb, myself, and my colleagues the opportunity to come before you to discuss how federal hunger programs operate in the U.S. insular areas, just as you have heard about other regions of America. And as this Congress and the Rules Committee continue to discuss our nation's anti-hunger policies and how we can improve them, I urge my colleagues to keep in mind the Marianas and the other insular areas and all the Americans who live there. This is indeed our important conversations. And again, I thank you, Chairman McGovern.
Well, thank you very much. And before I